Hello and welcome back to the Delirium engine, where the alternative is nap time. Today we are going to be continuing our Enter Session series, where we discuss the parts of a GM session/scenario that discuss what makes each part the most successful with the least effort. And we will add preface notes again that more effort is always better, but our goal is to get the best outcome for the least effort. So last week we talked about NPCs and sort of how to put them together. This week I'm with my good friend the Spartan, and we are talking about environment, attacking the darkness.
Oh.
So, like I sort of did last week, what we're going to do is I'll talk about what I mean when we're talking about environment, and then also sort of what I do when I build a session, and then we'll just springboard off each other and see if we can figure out what might be the most efficient way of doing things. And if we can't find it, then so be it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will, and hopefully this will be a very productive episode.
Hopefully.
So when I'm talking about environment, generally what I mean is sort of the setting of the session. Usually it's something like the environment, like the town or the dungeon itself, or the whatever scenario you've put them in. But we're not specifically talking about like individual characters or individual challenges that you're putting forward. Like, part of the environment, might be, say, traps laid, but that's not necessarily the whole environment. We're not just talking about traps and barriers. We're talking about sort of the feel of what the players are going to be experiencing. So, you could have a series of rooms, each with a bunch of monsters in it, right?
Yeah.
And in one scenario, with exactly the same numbers, right? One scenario, they're all, it's all action adventure feeling, and in another scenario, you could just as easily make it spooky and scary. Like it's kind of like the skin of the game, I guess, would be what the environment is.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so and generally, what I do. Is when I'm building a session, sort of for the first time, I create like an overarching feel for what the PCs are going to go into. So, for example, it's like I know they're going to walk into a town. So it's like, okay, well, there's a town. So I ask myself a series of questions like, okay, what kind of town are they walking into? Well, what do I know? And so, like, let's say I know that it's a dwarven town. So it's like, okay, what does a dwarven town look like? And then we just, I sort of extrapolate in my head. I don't really write anything down. And in fact, I would almost say, like, I came into this episode, because this is actually take two, but we came into this episode, I was about to basically say that I sort of ignore the environment completely, but it's entirely untrue. What I really do is I think about the environment and everything in it, but I never write anything down.
Yeah.
Really what I do is I just sort of visualize one sort of scene, maybe a moving picture scene of what this environment kind of looks like, and then from there I just sort of use those descriptions to run the game. So, like, let's taking this dwarven city example. It's like, okay, well, it's probably going to be underground unless it's not, but we'll say it is, and it's going to be stone architecture, well lit, let's say with, I don't know, lava. Let's say lava because we're talking about, like, I don't know, maybe we're lifting a little bit of things from World of Warcraft and Ironforge or whatever. I think is the place the dwarves live.
Okay.
In that game, they light things with lava.
I think that's
I guess they're on a volcano. I don't know, but like you can see, so you go from there and you're like, okay, so now the environment I know is going to be like a dark place. It's kind of full of dirt and soot because it's dwarves. Yeah. But like it's well lit with like lava, so it's hot as hell in there. But the dwarves don't mind, but you might mind. And who knows? Like they're dwarves, so maybe they only eat certain things. So the markets aren't selling fresh fruit and vegetables and all these things that grow in the light. They're selling like mushrooms, and basically building the environment in the game for me is just a series of extrapolations from what I already know, and then inventing random crap based on what I think is the case. And then often you can sort of strike gold and come up with some pretty good ideas that way. Other than that, I don't think I really do anything particularly special, I guess, with the environment. Other than, the series of extrapolations based on a few grains of information that I do know.
Okay.
I guess the first question I'll ask is what do you think of that sort of process that I lay out? And if you've run a game, have you done anything similar, or what do you do?
Well, in the game I'm running right now, I follow a sort of similar state of mind. I'd never written anything down about any of the cities or places that my PCs have visited so far. It's kind of just all in my head, and I'll paint a picture kind of thing for them, like this is how it is in this area, and if they have asked for specifics, then yeah, but otherwise just let them draw their own conclusion type of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my first question that I'll sort of pose to you, and then we'll go back and forth with it.
Yeah.
Is kind of so both of our processes work on the idea that we don't usually write much of anything down, and that's the least effort idea. Like, I understand, like, no writing it down, just kind of thinking about it. But do you think that perhaps you would get a better result, like to achieve sort of an optimum, because we're trying to go for the best for the least?
Yeah.
What do you think that you could do to improve the clarity and the color of any given environment that you've produced in your setting or in your session?
Having like an image would help. Like,
yeah.
Just a static picture that you can actually show people, like, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about when it comes to this place.
Yeah, what I was thinking of actually was back in university, what we used to do a lot is we used to do creative writings and stuff, just sort of between sessions.
Okay.
And what might be a good idea is, rather than do some sort of like kind of long droning, like this is this and that is that, which might work regarding your environment, what you do instead maybe is write just a creative writing about something that's unrelated to the scenario. Like, this isn't necessarily for the benefit of the players or the scenario, but for your benefit. And then it's just something that might add to the sort of feel, get people immersed, right? So, for example, it's like, let's say you're entering Dwarf Town here that we talked about. Yeah. You enter Dwarf Town to go slay a dragon because there's a dragon. I don't know. But so you're going to write about a pickpocket who lives in this town, who like travels through the back alleys of the town, has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with anything. But in writing maybe these 3 or 4 paragraphs of this little short story that you've written, or whatever, you can flesh out the whole environment in your head. And hell, you might even come up with some NPCs and stuff like that too, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, I could see that working.
And
it help you get a feel for your own, where you're wanting this to go, type of thing.
Yeah, and trying to use descriptive language is probably where you go with this. It's, not just a point form where it's like, there's a pickpocket, he pickpockets some pockets and he goes away. Like, you're trying to produce an environment from this creative writing. So, like, maybe this pickpocket, and honestly, the story that you write would probably help. It would probably help create at least the feel that you have in your head, because you're not going to pick a story about a pickpocket for no reason usually. Like, usually you'll pick a story that sort of goes along with what the feeling you're trying to go for in the scenario. So, for example, say you wanted it to be like a haunted house. Like, let's say the dwarf city's abandoned and there's nobody there. Like, heck, you might have, a story about the last person who is there. Someone who's tending all the graves for whatever reason. Like this is the mines of Moria, right? Moria was a beautiful place, and there was just one guy who like dusts off the king's grave. That could be a story, and this would create for you like you would basically be able to prepare the descriptive words you want to use. Actually, I think that would be the where we're sort of going with this is like that little short story will help you have descriptive words to describe what your PCs are seeing because you'll have already written them down at least once, or typed them out. And then the PCs, if they're actually reading your creative writings, like say you have like a forum or like anything you want, that like a Discord, maybe there's a text area for Discord in your game, or if you're running on a forum of your own, like between sessions or whatever, just an aside, the players might be able to read that and sort of get an idea what they're walking into, and you could use it for foreshadowing too if you wanted as well. That to me that might actually be just like an hour that you could set aside for something, and it doesn't have to be something particularly amazing. You just basically all you're doing is teasing out descriptive words for yourself, so that when you run the game, you could be like, the ramshackle house that you're walking into, rather than saying, it's real bad. Like using just really weird words or trying to come up with words. Like you've already spent your time coming up with the interesting descriptive words. Yeah. Instead of being like, it's got no good stuff in it. You could just be like, it's a derelict building. See, I'm already stumbling because I'm trying to find these descriptive words. But like if I had written them down, I would already know. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think that'll work. That could work really well.
And, obviously more effort is better. Yeah. We've already said that. But do you think that something like that is enough time? Like, is too much effort for something like that? Maybe even just thinking up descriptive words for the scenario in advance. Like when you write it up, maybe write a few lines here and there about your place. So instead of a little short story, maybe we can go even less and say just like, the ramshackle roofs of the building, are an indicator of its derelict state. When you're writing your scenario, you just maybe in a column here just have a few quotes about the environment. In the same way that you would write a few quotes about the PCs. Or whatever. There might be quotes attributed to NPCs in the area, or they just might be, a little bit of exposition about the area.
Yeah, you could...
that might save a short story.
Yeah. Because a short story is definitely going to take longer to do than just a few descriptive words. So if you're going for most for least...
Yeah, just a couple of lines. But I think the important part is to actually to somehow find some way to get some descriptive words for yourself, so you're not stumbling over your own words. Yeah. Trying to think of what you want to describe to the players.
I have ran into a bit of stumbling myself trying to describe things. I have noticed that. So
I used to play with some people who are really quite exceptional at basically producing words very quickly, and that's not me. Like I just don't do it. Like I'm pretty okay at like bringing characters together and then creating a sense of impending doom, but like I'm not very good at describing on the fly sort of a visual aspect or even a sound aspect of what people are seeing and hearing. Usually it stumbles. Yeah, I'm not smooth with my words.
I'd say I have the same problem.
Yeah, and that might be the solution to that. Okay. I guess the next question is how much environment should you invest in? Like how broad should you go and how narrow should we go? Like should we get down to the minutia? Like should we start writing up sewers and sewer systems and draw maps for all the sewers? Like should we just say that the sewers exist? Do we need just like a single blurb about the sewers? What do you think?
Well, it depends on whether or not you intend to go down, as you said, to the sewers. Like if you don't
Let's
think,
assume they don't.
okay, well
Like,
then you could just there's you might not even need to mention it. It can just be something that they extrapolate because this is a city. It's probably gonna have sewers.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But if there are sewers, like, I guess you can just extrapolate it on the fly. Like, and that's another thing too, is like these environmental options can sort of come from in session. So if people are like, are there sewers? Like, yeah, there are sewers.
Yeah. Like if they show an interest in it, then yeah, probably throw a couple brain cells at it, and whether or not you want to broaden that section. Otherwise, just leave it be.
Yeah. And there's always the random die, the chance cube that you can use for determining whether, like, say, like if they ask if there's a sewer, you could just be like, 1 to 6. 1, it's there's going to be some serious problems, and 6 is it's exactly as the PC's wildest dreams wishes it were. So you could be like, yeah, I rolled a 1. It's like, yeah, they do have them, but they're like storm gutters, and they don't really fit people inside. Like they could probably fit a dog at most crawling in.
Oh,
that kind of thing.
That's pretty
like
tight.
Yeah. Or it's so full of flowing water that you can't really get in there. Like, it's not something you can tromps around in. It's just it's inaccessible. Or there's like a huge challenge there. It's like it's filled with leeches.
or lava.
Or lava. Yeah, it's like a lava sewer. People just poop into the lava.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, and the PCs might have to get around, like, if they want to continue with their plan, they'd have to get around that.
Yeah.
But once again, though, that's like an extrapolation, and maybe then when you're free balling it, just be mindful of what you've already produced already, or be mindful of the environment you have created, because you don't want to create these weird, like, there's a watery sewer in Ironforge, but it's flowing with lava. It's like, but water
weird.
Sewer. That doesn't...
Yeah, weird paradoxes.
Yeah. You'd end up with these sort of weird scenarios where people would be like, what? Or, like, you'd create... Some of the modules I've played in D&D have had, like, these kinds of environmental, like, faux pas where it's like, they set up these... I guess that's the other thing. Make sure that your environment sort of accommodates the other aspects of your session. If that makes sense. So, like... You built a desert, like, to take the example, there's a module, I think it's like Dragon Mountain or whatever, is they a lot of the rooms in that dungeon, they have kobolds and stuff in it, and the kobolds, like, sort of travel. They just mentioned the kobolds travel using tunnels.
Okay.
So they can escape through these tunnel systems. So you just ask, it's like, okay, well, where do the tunnel systems go? What's the map of the tunnel systems?
Yeah.
Well, they don't give that.
Oh. That's...
They just say tunnel systems exist. So, unfortunately, the GM just looked at the map, tilted his head, and goes, I don't know. And then essentially said, okay, I guess these tunnel systems run the whole map. You can more or less skip the whole dungeon. Because, like, this module didn't take into account the environment that it was producing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it created these tunnel systems in its extrapolations that they exist, and this is how the kobolds get from point A to point B. They're not just randomly hiding in rooms. They're trying to stop you from advancing by traveling through these tunnel systems. It's like, well, then I'm going to use the tunnel systems. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't think of that.
We haven't thought that far ahead.
Yeah. And you'll find that... we mentioned it before, actually. I think rules for GMs and stuff like that, with, like, the impossible barriers and things like that. Like, this would be another example of your environment, where when you're producing your environment, try not to make things stupid. Like, oh yeah, everything's magically ruined, so you can't do anything mundane to like get through our dungeon. Like, a pickaxe and a lot of time isn't going to break this wall ever. You can never use any magic to ever bypass the wall that I've produced for you. You have to go through the maze like a hamster.
You can't just break through the wall and there's the exit right there because it's right next to each other?
Yeah. Impossible.
Darn.
So that's the kind of thing that I would say, as well, is this no good when you're building these environments. Is try to extrapolate, try to be somewhat realistic with these extrapolations, and keep into a mind mundane things. I find that that's the thing that stumps players the most, is mundanity. because they get so caught up in these fantasy games and like even in any scenario they get so caught up in the fantasy aspect of the games. Like if you're playing like Cyberpunk, they want their cyberware and all their cool shit and their super guns and whatever to be the solution to their problems. But sometimes it's just like, look under the bed or something like that, like something ridiculous, use the tunnel system. And GMs are the same way. They're really horrible for that too. I find it's like, especially newer ones or ones that like they don't extrapolate things. They'll build these huge dungeons with elaborate traps, and it's like in an ancient tomb, but they never think that maybe the traps malfunction.
Yeah.
Maybe why
time wears on everything.
Some old guy that I used to work with, actually, he played some D&D once in a while. I was like, in your game, bro, I'm like, Brian, you know what you should do? Make it so the traps don't work once in a while. And I'm like, I thought about it, and this was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
I thought about it. It's like, that's a really good idea. It's like, it scares the crap out of everybody, and it's just like, sometimes the traps just fail. Or they ran out of bullets a long time ago. Like, they shoot arrows at you, but like, I'm sorry, they ran out of arrows.
Yeah.
They got fired off by random animals and stuff. And, that's another thing. Maybe there's a whole bunch of animal bones from like bears and stuff that wander in and then get hit by these traps and who knows what.
Yeah.
But and that's another thing about the environment, right? It's like you take all the things that you've produced and sort of try to extrapolate what might happen if you just left it. Or in the scenario you're producing. So it's like, if it's the tyrant's castle, is the tyrant really going to have, I don't know, is he going to have some sort of, festival ground that everybody's really happy with or something? Like, I can't even think of something off the top of my head that the tyrant wouldn't have, because he's a tyrant, he might have anything.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, or is he going to have, like, a really vibrant and happy community? Or is the tyrant more or less just going to have a bunch of miserable people? I don't know. Tyrant might just be a bad example of trying to find something that doesn't work. But anyway, point is the things that you make, your environment should tie them in, or should take into account these things. Like the things are being placed in the environment, right? And so your environment should accommodate these things that you want in there. There's no reason to have a pit trap in a sand, like a pit trap in a desert. The sand would just fill the pit.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. Or like a pit trap underwater.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work either.
It suddenly doesn't make any sense. And it's like,
Yeah.
So like, yeah. Or if you did have a pit trap and it happens to be underwater, that actually might be kind of an interesting thing. It's like, this was a thing and it got flooded.
Yeah, you could run with that too. Yeah.
So like, your pit trap, like that's another trap that might not work, right? It's like, over time, fucking water came in here and it doesn't evaporate. It's just some, bracken, horrible, stinking water that just sits in the bottom of this stupid pit, where all these bodies that from previous adventures or whatever are now building up. So now you just got this black goo. Yeah. The pit trap, you fall into a black goo, and like you sink a little ways, and you feel the prick of a spike, but you've already the water has stopped your fall if you're not wearing armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that could be, to me that makes things a bit more
real.
Real.
Yeah.
That's a good word. And that's your goal with your environment, is to make things real through I think all of these extrapolations. Mm-hmm. Take the couple seconds every time you build a problem, every time you build an NPC, every time you're like, this is the scenario, and I'm going to put this in it. Figure out how it interacts with the environment, or how the environment would interact with it. And if you can do that, the more like random things that you can think of that might have happened, the better it'll be.
Yeah.
The tyrant thing might be like just something simple, like, there are posters all over the place, extolling the virtues of the tyrant. So like when they go into a room, maybe you have a small list of like random blurbs where it's like, Lord Theramore fought for your freedom, and now you are free to do what Lord Theramore says. Things like that. Free to work for Lord Theramore.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. really, if your session, if the little scenario you put together, like your little package that you're making for your game, if it consists of a whole bunch of little points about pretty much everything that you've produced, like whenever you make a thing, take a point form or two. Like maybe not the short story thing, that was probably one direction, but maybe a point or two about every single thing that you produce and how it interacts with your environment, just in the margins. I think to me that seems like just the right amount of effort for maximum gain, and then just have a little bit of a get good at a little bit of ad lib.
Yeah. I like that.
And the better you are at ad lib, the less you have to do.
Yeah. If you can come up with shit on the fly, there you go.
Yeah. That seems like the most legit. So yeah, extrapolations, make little points.
If the characters aren't interested, don't worry.
Yeah, that's another thing too, I guess, right? Yeah, don't get too caught up in it.
Yeah.
That would, I guess, that would be some hazards that we would want to avoid.
You don't need to make the 5,000 word mega city if your PCs don't want to stay in it.
Yeah, and that's another thing that the GM always has to worry about. The more effort you put into things, the PCs might just turn it over.
Yeah,
and say we're not going here. You know, we changed our mind. We're going to go somewhere else instead.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you might just want to do in a situation like that is sort of be mindful of what you've created. Put it aside. Maybe they'll come back to it, but don't put so much work into it that, like, don't write 5,000. Like in this case, maybe more effort. Well, no, it is always better because then you can have it in the back burner, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing that feels more sore than like you spending 10 hours on a whole bunch of environment, like on a whole bunch of stuff in your scenario, and they just like say no, they don't want to do that right now.
Painting this massive picture and everybody's
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing would be don't be acute, be vague. And by what I mean by that is like, you know, don't focus on things like a door somewhere in the city. You know, focus on doors in general.
Yeah.
You know, one door and like unless that door is a specific, you know, unless, you know, a topic for another episode, but like unless that door is a specific barrier that they have to cross, you know, that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about the environment. So talk about doors in general. Maybe the entire town paints their doors red for whatever reason. You don't know why. But, you know, maybe you as a GM do. Maybe you're like, oh yeah, they paint it red in solidarity to this tragedy that occurred X years ago. Sweet. Little piece of the environment that you've put on. So it's like, you know, you knock on the red door. It's like, oh.
Why is it red?
Yeah, why is it red?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know. Maybe you should ask. You notice that all the doors are red. Suddenly, like, yeah, just a little blurb is like, all the doors are red.
There you go.
You know,
Make
because a massacre happened.
Wow.
You know, something like that. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, little points in the margins, and that's probably what the environment really is. Is just in your scenario, it's all the little point notes in the margins.
Yeah, the cliff notes,
and then maybe the opening paragraph, where it's like you enter the city of Besamton. You know, and you get that little paragraph about what Besamton is. It's a fishing village filled with people, joyous and happy ones, welcoming of strangers. You know, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, you've built your core environment there. You know, you have all the other stuff, and these are the margins about all those other little things.
Yeah, that works.
And I would dare say I don't do that. I don't even put that much work into each and every session, but I should probably do it, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably a really good idea, is just always do like a little environmental addition.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to start doing that too, because I find that I'm running into issues, like I have to stop and think about how things are done.
Yeah.
And if I did that beforehand, it would kind of keep the game moving in a more smooth pace.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of nice, and this is another nice part of sort of this note-taking margins thing. If you ever keep your notes, like I always write all my sessions and stuff on paper, and then I just archive them. Like I put them in binders and folders and other things, and like have them filed away by campaign.
Yeah.
Somewhere. so when I like look at them later, I can look and be like, oh wow, I put all this cool like I added all these details into these games, and you can always look into it later. It's actually kind of a treat when you're like cleaning your rooms or moving stuff from place to place or whatever, and you encounter these things. Oh man, or you're talking to your friends about random glorious games of days past, and you can bring it out and show them all the cool shit that you guys wrote and all the interesting things, and they'll look at it and they won't appreciate it as much as you do, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, no one ever appreciates it as much as the artist does.
There's nothing more annoying than D&D stories from a person who doesn't know how to tell stories.
Hi.
Yeah, that's my life too. But yeah, environment's actually a pretty easy topic, but not like it is and it isn't. I think like unless there's more to it. Unfortunately, we don't have a Don John.
No.
This might actually be like a. This might be a really short episode.
Yeah.
Like I can't really think. Like, is there anything that you can think of that really adds to it? Like, really adds to what we might need to do. Like, is there anything?
No, I can't come up with anything off the top of my head.
So yeah, to summarize, it would be like the what we sort of are coming to maybe here with the most for the least is a setting blurb, because you kind of need something. Write something down. Make sure you write things down to achieve a get your descriptive words.
Yeah, a base idea.
You need some base descriptive words that you're going to use to sort of create the feel of your scenario, and then everything that you put in this scenario, everything you write down on paper, make sure you have some notes in the margins about what the environment has done or what it's doing to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, that's probably the most for the least. As like I said, descriptive words and the extrapolations, and like just logical extrapolations. If you have a logical mind, you'll do it easily. If not, you should probably learn the skills.
Yeah.
Just start doing it more and more. Just start thinking about like what could possibly be happening, and don't think too hard about it, because chances are, if you put too many hours into it, you're overthinking things.
Yeah. Don't get too attached, because your PCs might not be as attached as you are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. That it seems like 30 minutes. Wow, it's not very much.
No.
Well, I don't really think. I think we nailed it more or less. Like,
Yeah, no, I'm happy with it.
okay.
I think we came to a good conclusion.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you get Swampy here, or Mr. Dagwood would have been kind of okay, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we would have actually come to more of a conclusion than that. Like, it seems pretty straightforward, and this just might be one of those episodes where it's just really straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Like,
okay.
Again, I know I'm not the best for this. Like, the campaign I'm running now is the one I've put the most thought and effort in any other campaign above any other campaign I've ever done before.
Yeah.
Most of them have been like book campaigns, and we never really got past the first chapter.
Oh, whatever.
So I'm still kind of learning.
Well then, well, you listeners, what do you guys think? Hopefully, you could leave us something in the comment section. Let us know maybe what you do to build your environment. If maybe we're on the wrong track, let us know. Well, we might have to pick this up in another episode, or have a whole other episode based on the environment again. But yeah, let us know. Like if you can. Subscribe if you're listening to it for the first time and you haven't already done so. We've got 18 subscribers. Let's see if we can get it all the way to 20.
Oh man,
20 subscribers. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that. One thing that's kind of interesting about this, just to put it aside, seeing as how we're sort of done with this episode, I guess.
Yeah.
I find that the utility, like the numbers, is not really that interesting. Like,
what do you mean?
The numbers, like the viewers numbers,
Oh,
and
okay.
Because we don't get very many viewers.
No,
Maybe
well.
like 4 or 5. But the actual this us sitting down and actually having discussions to me is really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I find that that's more valuable than whatever the YouTube popularity contest ends up being. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty good. It feels real good. And yeah. I just would like. I think I would kind of like if a couple like strangers came in, because like nothing hurts more than the criticism of strangers.
Yeah.
And being in like an echo chamber with all your buddies, like obviously everyone sounds real smart. And yeah, once the strangers come in and tell you you're an idiot, that's where you really start evaluating your life. And I think that would actually be kind of nice. Maybe not just saying I'm an idiot, obviously. You can't get anything valuable from that. But that would be pretty good. So all you strangers out there, if you got anything to say in any of the videos, go ahead and post it.
Yeah, Mekhalikhar will take a look. I'll just be along for the ride, probably.
Yeah, I'll probably see it in my YouTube feeds. And yeah, that'll be good. So yeah, with that said, our next episode is going to be The Trail, a roadmap of pain, where we will discuss essentially the way that we build the scenario's path of progression. Some people will make it kind of linear, some people kind of don't. And so we'll see if we can figure out what the most for the least is when it comes to the scenario's, logical path, I guess. Or the dungeon trail.
I can already say I'm pretty sure I'm in the not linear category.
Yeah, well, yeah. We are very. I would say that the bias in this I'm not gonna say the whole play group, but a lot of the play group is with considering like rules for GMs and rules for players is a very like non-linear sandbox game style.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of us fall into that category, and frankly, I think it's the best category. I don't think linear games. I think they're real stupid. They usually end up like sometimes you get a really exceptional GM and it's like it's fun to listen to story time, and sometimes you can choose your own adventure. But for the most part, they're not good. They're just kind of bad. You don't really get to explore any character development. Your character development is pre-written for you.
Yeah,
I'm just not a real big fan.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right then. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. It's a short one, but we've had so many long episodes that who cares?
Yeah. Mix it up a bit.
So, I hope you guys all enjoy your games. I hope you get something valuable from this. You guys all take care and don't die.